This is your 20-minute podcast where we do our best to give you useful information in 20 minutes or less. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/your 20-minute podcast. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Now, here's your host, David Brower.
This is David Brower with your 20-minute podcast, and our special guest today, Pamela Naidoo from the UK, London to be more specific. How are you, I guess, this afternoon, your time?
Oh, I am doing very well. Thank you very much, David, for asking. It's 5 p.m. UK time, and everything's going really well.
Good. Pamela Naidoo is a friendship expert consultant. She resides in London, born and raised in South Africa, where she's trained as a professional chemical engineer. And her greatest passion is people, and her most admired strengths are her friendship skills. You're on a mission to extend this friendship knowledge with the world, and you've done a lot of work with scientists and scholars to explore all that, right?
Mm-hmm. You're correct. I mean, it's an area that's not explored. Opposite-sex friendships is not explored in terms of everyday language. There's research being done, and even the research only extends to a few decades. I mean, the big reason for that is that it's now becoming very popular, and a few decades ago it wasn't.
Right.
So the studies are starting to reveal if it's becoming popular, how do we interact with each other. So my research was to condense that study with the experts and break it down into everyday language and how it can help other people make friends of the opposite sex.
And how do you go from being a professional chemical engineer to a friendship expert?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. So friendship has always been a big part of my life. And I think if there's one thing people ask me what my passion was growing up, it has to be friendship. And that was probably my biggest strength. And when it came to opposite-sex friendships, my girlfriends would constantly probe me, like, how's it that you make guy friends? And, you've got so many guy friends and they respect you and, they make so much time for you, whereas we struggle to make long-term friendships with men. How do you do it? So what really started off as pub conversations ended up being something like, you should write it down. And then it ended up being writing a book. But when I started the book, I realized I didn't know as much as I thought I knew, and I really wanted to have a scientific explanation for why and how people make opposite-sex friends, including myself. Why is it easier for some people, and why do other people struggle, and how are we really wired? So in terms of where the book comes from and where the idea comes from, it's been a journey from my personal life that's progressed into this arena. It's just an overall guide, and it's a case of being forewarned is forearmed, and you're in more control of the situation and your friendships.
Forewarned and forearmed. That is absolutely well said. So you have to have you'd have to have some confidence about yourself, like yourself, be assured of yourself, and have a good sense of other people around you to be able to pick up on some of these feelings, don't you?
Yeah, I agree with you, David. I think it is largely a case. I mean, I go into a lot of detail into my book, and it always starts from within you, because those are the things you can control, doing a bit of introspection, who you are, how do you see yourself, and how can you manage those barriers within yourself in terms of trying to make guys as friends. I mean, we all do it. We all create these barriers for ourselves in terms of, how we portray ourselves, how we see ourselves, and those become limitations. And those limitations over years, hinder us from making long-term successful engagements with other people. And I think for women particularly, because my study has been a lot about, a woman's guide to male friendships.
Yeah.
I think as we get older, we've gone through a few relationships and our friends are all married and they're having kids. And, it can become quite isolating and lonely. So I think, doing a check-in with yourself about what you actually want, who you are, is a very important first step when you're trying to make men as friends or trying to make opposite-sex friends.
Absolutely. And we all at some point have some level of boundaries that we respect and trust. And I would think some of those boundaries need to break down a little bit in order to be successful in this. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment of how to make friends. These boundaries that, they're tough sometimes. First impressions, there's a lot of pressure on, getting it right the first time. But I think that pressure needs to, we need to take that off ourselves as well sometimes, because it's about being easy on yourself, removing those barriers. And the biggest, for me, the biggest tip I give people when it comes to making friends is actually keeping an open mind.
Got to also understand that that other person is doing the same, and so you're kind of gradually trying to work towards each other and giving each other respect, right?
I think you couldn't have said it better, David. I think when you recognize and when you come to realize that the other person is feeling no different from the way you're feeling, it takes the pressure off, and it makes it easier for you to say, okay, it's awkward. It's awkward for me, but it's at the same time awkward for her or him too. So we're both awkward, and we're both equally awkward now, and that's fine. You know? And so we just continue and try to make the best out of it, keep those, throw away those inhibitions a little bit, throw away expectations, just see them for who they are, see the best in them. I mean, there's my book actually goes into a lot of detail in terms of the friendship model, and I talk a lot about the 6 stages within a friendship. It is very powerful stuff in terms of how we make friends, but the first 2 stages where we introduce ourselves in a friendship, the first one is in terms of letting people know what your role in society is, where you work, what you do, where you live. That's just like a placeholder. Okay, so, David does this, he runs podcasts, and he lives, in New York. And then the second part of the relationship is where I get to know you a bit better. What does David like to do? What does Pam like to do? And then once you find those common boundaries, and adding all the elements of trust and time and effort, you grow towards steadily making a good friendship.
Trust and time and effort. That is a formula for success, right?
Absolutely. And I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because it's one of these things that everybody knows when it comes to friendships. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure if you ask people about how to make friends, they can easily tell you what I'm telling you. But the difference is there's a reluctance as we get older to want to believe in that system. We do it in the playground. Kids do it all the time. They've got no conditions, no barriers. They just walk up to each other, start a conversation, and they're friends.
Absolutely.
And as adults, we tend to struggle. It's mostly those barriers we put in ourselves, and it's also the barriers we put for other people. So, yeah, trust, time, and effort are really important to long-term friendships.
That'll be the title of your next book, right?
And that could possibly be the title of my next book.
You mentioned judgment being an issue with you, and I'm thinking about that because not only judgment, but also overthinking. Those 2 things coexist in my brain and cause me a little more angst than I would like.
I think it's varying degrees for different people, and it's how, I could feel a lot more than you would feel, but possibly I overcome that barrier quicker than other people would. So, some people are better at, not being so judgmental. Everyone's got their different levels in terms of what appeals to them, and then we make choices from there. But you're absolutely right. I mean, in terms of these barriers, I think keeping an open mind. I mean, ultimately, we've got nothing to lose and lots to gain. You
bet. I come from a totally different place. So I was, my dad was on the road a lot, so I was raised by a single mom and her 5 sisters. So getting in touch with my female side and being comfortable around women has never been an issue. My best friends growing up were always women. And when I was divorced, maybe 20 years ago, 5 of my 5 best friends were all women. And so when I met my current wife, Karen, I told her, I said, and she had met all my friends, and I said, the thing that I like most about each one of those 5 friends, the individual single thing that I love most about them, all 5 of those things are in you, which is why I was attracted to you.
You're the full package.
Oh, my God. It was fabulous. Caught me off guard.
Yeah, that's very interesting, David, because you can actually write the reverse of my book, can't you? You could be Just Friends, the ultimate male's guide to female friendships.
There you go. I'll write the addendum to your book.
But similar to you. I mean, I've had the same upbringing. I grew up with 2 brothers. My neighbors were men, guys, and I'm the only daughter at home. And, I would like to think that's contributed, but I also do not believe that it's the only thing that's allowed me to make male friends. And I'd like to inspire women to, you don't really need that to make opposite sex friends. It's great that you've had that experience from young, but it's a skill that you can learn.
Absolutely. And those 6 steps help people do that, right? Help women do that in particular. So the friendship model is just a generic friendship model that's been, it's undertaken by a scientist called Bill Rawlins, and he developed this for
all ages, all groups, all types of friendships. But in my book, I go into a lot of detail in the context of, where do I find these guys and how do I initiate friendships? And I think what women need to understand is that, and men as well, is that when we talk friendship, we need to remove the element of dating, because whenever we talk opposite sex, dating is also becomes like a priority. So
Right.
we tend to see men as dating partners, and they tend to see you as dating partners. And so there's this question of, shall I talk to him first, or is it his place to talk to me first because he's a guy? But those are the rules for dating. That's not the rules for friendship.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. I like that. I've never heard it expressed that way. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I shred down, break down those barriers in terms of how we make friends and why those rules don't apply. And there's a reason why we were ingrained with those rules. And the big reason is, same-sex friendships, dating relationships, they are what we're used to. Two people of the opposite sex must be a couple. They must be dating, and movies and the media has portrayed that ever since, from the beginning of time. There's always the possibility of romance, or it ends up in romance. So as a society, we struggle to separate the two. We struggle to see, okay, but we do this with our same-sex friends. Why can't we do this with opposite-sex friends? And that's the large reason for my book. It's because it's a new age thing. It's it's becoming the quickest social interaction on the planet, because I think times are changing, and we want to make opposite-sex friends, and how do we do this? And it's no different from making same-sex friends. Obviously, there are differences, but in terms of initiation and maintenance and stuff like that, those areas, they all stay the same.
But it would give you, I would think, it would give you much better balance in your life.
Absolutely, David. I mean, having opposite-sex friends will make you a lot more wholesome and have a more fulfilling life. And obviously, I say that subjectively, but anyone that has had opposite-sex friends has had the benefit of listening to both sides of the story, has had the ability to have perspective on their situation and their lives. You're forced to keep a more balanced view. If I have an issue that I need to discuss with my girlfriend and my guy friend, the approaches more times than often will be different. Mm-hmm. Guys are pretty much, and obviously this is stereotyping, but this is also my observations. They would give you something that that hasn't got too much emotions. It's clear, and it's sort of a way of dealing with things. Men look at it differently, more rational. Women will tend to work through a process of feelings, and they come to a result by that. Right. So, but having the ability to have both sides of the coin, of male friends and female friends, makes you more wholesome. Because even when you have to make that decision by yourself, you've got years of experience of what a guy would say to you and what a girl would say to you. Very beneficial, especially if you're dating. Probably the number one benefit of having opposite-sex friends is this, premium advice that you would get from them.
Absolutely. And guys, again, to stereotype a little bit, or maybe a lot, guys are coming into the conversation to fix it, and women are coming into the conversation to process it. Absolutely. Two different responses, maybe even the same conclusion. And one's not better than the other. No, it's just different. And at the end of the day, you got that option to do what you're comfortable with, and it is your life, and you can choose. One of the things that you mentioned in your bio and some of your blog posts and those kinds of things are the friend zone. So tell me about that. What is the friend zone, and how do you define that? Yeah, you see, the friend zone is a commitment mismatch between two people in the same friendship. So two people, this is quite interesting in a way, because two people in the same friendship can experience the friendship differently. When there's a commitment mismatch between these two people, then technically, especially when there's attraction in the way, and one's expecting this to move to a sexual relationship or to a friendship, then you're technically in the friend zone. Ultimately, the friend zone is a holding pattern, and you can't really stay in there permanently. It's just a stepping stone for a relationship or a friends with benefit relationship. If you want to stay in touch with me, you can visit my website, which is www.platonicplanet.co.uk. And I have a Facebook page of the same name and an Instagram page of the same name, Platonic Planet. And all those links are on your website? All the links are on my website. Right. So it's very easy to get in touch with you and find the social links there. You'll also find some great reviews on the book as well. It's going to be available, or it is available as we speak, at Amazon.com. And again, the book is just is in quotes, by the way, Just Friends, The Ultimate Girl's Guide to Male Friendships by Pamela Naidoo. That's fascinating. It's Welcome to Platonic Planet. How did you come up with the name of your website? That's pretty cool.
Because I just thought, opposite sex friends is platonic, but then I wanted a brand for the book, because this could be the first book of many books. Because now, when I started this book, the guys were saying, "That's great that you have a book for women, but we need one for men." Yeah. So it will probably branch off into maybe understanding platonic friendships for both sexes, or it could be, next book just dealing with the friend zone, depending on the topic. So I'm trying to brand the future books in terms of Platonic Planet, and also in terms of coaching and speaking and writing. Those are the other services I offer. So in terms of coaching, I think friendship is very understated, but so rewarding. And, we always go for advice for dating, and we always go for advice for grieving. But why not something positive? Why shouldn't we should go ahead and try and learn how to make friends and how to make opposite sex friends, how to maintain friendships. So I offer coaching, one-to-one personal service. And it's a really, really interesting chapter, because I'm a chemical engineer and I've worked with men and traveled with them pretty much around the globe. So that chapter comes with a lot of perspective and experience as well. But you're absolutely right. I mean, friendship it's what we're born to do. We're born to connect with other human beings more than anything else.
Right.
It's like a survival skill. So you're right. I mean, this could easily go into the workplace in terms of, how do we manage friendships at work, and, what's the etiquette, and, how could we create a more friendlier working place?
Well, and the cool thing about your branding, Welcome to the Platonic Planet, it gives you the whole world as your canvas. So you can just... You can really touch a lot of people worldwide just with the one brand. That's brilliant.
Yes, I just think it's so close to my heart, and I believe that it brings so much value to my life in terms of how I've achieved things. And, people just sometimes think it's just luck, but it's also, I know, so many people are willing to reach out and help, and friendship is a big part, and I want to help other people do the same.
Well, you're paying it forward, right? You're paying it forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a huge deal. Pamela, this has been one of the quickest 20 minutes in history. I've really enjoyed it.
Absolutely, David. Thank you for this lovely conversation.
You are very welcome.
As well from you.
Thank you. My pleasure. So again, the book is Just Friends, The Ultimate Girl's Guide to Male Friendships by Pamela Naidoo, and you can catch her on her website, platonicplanet.com. Connect with her there socially, and learn more about yourself than you ever thought possible.
David, it's platonicplanet.co.uk.
Oh, that's right. My bad.
UK.
Thank you.
No
platonicplanet.co.uk. There you
Thank
go.
you very much, David.
That's what happens when you talk to somebody in Colorado. They don't know the difference. You take care. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, David.
You've been listening to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower and our special guest, Pamela Naidoo. We hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. And be sure to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/your 20-minute podcast.
Until next time, don't forget to download your free audiobook at audibletrial.com/your 20-minute podcast. That's audibletrial.com/your 20-minute podcast for your free audiobook. And thanks for listening to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower.